a quick overview of what our category looks like, right? Now, I'm showing this from the point of view of our brands. Not all of this is relevant to Goa because the economy segment exists in neighboring markets like Maharashtra, Karnataka, don't really play much of a role in Goa. But what's common to most markets is the market from here. And even in Goa, the mainstream premium market is about 80%. It's not very different from the national share. What's emerging in many markets is an accessible premium space. Storm, Amstel, are brands that we have started playing with in some of the other markets. We had to launch this in Goa. In fact, we thought the Witbier launch was more important at this stage in Goa, given it's also season, and people from all over the country and the world are here to focus on Witbier first, and we will eventually come out with these as well. And these brands you are familiar with. They play in a small segment of some consumers who are willing to pay a little bit more for more premiumization and the kind of profile these brands have. Ultra and Heineken. What was missing in our portfolio clearly was this small emerging craft and variety category. Now when I was saying it's small, and many people have often questioned us on why a big large commercial brewer like us is getting into it, just to give you a sense. Across the country, last year, third-party data seems to indicate that the beer industry is around 380 million cases, thereabouts. The entire craft, all the brands that are there across the country, and there are many of them, nearly 40 of them, would account for less than 2% of the entire business. So that's how small it is. But it's an emerging segment, there's a consumer demand for it, and therefore as a large manufacturer, it was important for us to also play in this. Because we are one of the few countries that has really, we are one of the few brands in this country, companies in this country, that has focused on building a portfolio at every segment. If there's a consumer, there is a need, we will play in that portfolio. Many companies tend to play just in one portfolio or one end of the segment. As you will see across our brands, we actually play across all of them. Just to give you a sense of what craft is, globally, especially from the world of America, craft is all about being small, independent, production techniques. In countries like that, they also have different laws for craft brewing. India doesn't have it yet, but just it's good knowledge to know that craft is a little different from commercial brewing. If you look at the evolution of craft, we really started focusing on this in the last 3-4 years when people in craft beer came out in the bottled beer space. But actually, the consumer demand for craft has actually been there for nearly a decade. Started with some microbreweries launching in Pune, Gurgaon, Bangalore. Now, of course, there are tons of them. And following this, about 3-4 years ago, some brands started introducing craft in bottled beer. So the evolution has actually been there for 10 years. I think the big step change happened when some brands came in the bottled beer space. Today there are nearly 200 microbreweries that are there across the country, and there are a number of them in the pipeline. From the 1 or 2 players in the bottle and can beer space, today there are nearly 40 of them. Not all of them are available in Goa, but across the country, if you look at a count of how many are there are over 40 of them. And many of them come disappear after a couple of months as well. But some of them have been there for a while and are showing a trend of staying. Yeah? Craft as a category enables the beer category to play on different occasions. So there are clear beer occasions which people have, and most of them are in the evenings. But craft allows a lot more consumers to partake in beer occasion because it's that much more accessible. It actually brings a lot of women into the category as well, who typically drink cocktails and vodkas. Because craft is a little bit more artisanal, less bitter, sweeter, refreshing, and aromatic, some of them are fruity flavored, a lot of the women consumers also come into this. And therefore makes it even more accessible in the afternoon occasion. I know in Goa most people come here and drink as soon as they land off the flight, but the local Goans don't necessarily do that all the time. But this makes it far more occasion friendly. As an organization, it allows you to premiumize because most craft plays in that small segment I showed on top, 4 or 5% of the market. And companies which do well in craft are also seen to be thought leaders, mind leaders, and therefore very important for us as an organization which has been around for such a long time, with big brands like Kingfisher, and we've created brands like Ultra, and we've launched Heineken, to also play in the segment and make sure that we eventually get to leadership even in this small segment. You hear this word so much, right? Especially in media, millennials. And millennials are seeking something new, different all the time. But that's true for the young in any era. Even in the 70s, the youth were seeking something different, new, refreshing, international. Same is the case with the 80s. But with the millennials, it's a little different because they are also coming of age at a time when digital media is catching on in a very big way. So their awareness to what is happening around the world is much, much bigger than it was when many of us were much younger. And that makes it a little bit more different and complex. But therefore, their approach to life and beers is a little different. Now, this is an important slide for me. There are regular beers like Kingfisher, Kingfisher Strong, Amstel, Heineken, and notwithstanding price and the kind of taste, they all are actually regular beers. Primarily they are lagers, right? And they all come from a similar tradition of how they are brewed, how they are matured, and how they are bottled and sold. The craft beers that I am talking about globally are very small, very artisanal. So one brewery will make his own beer, and in his locality, he will bottle and can and sell those beers. That phenomena hasn't yet come to India because of licensing, but I'm sure at some point it will. The bottled beers are somewhere here. You know, they are toying with what is sort of craft, with adding flavors and adding aroma and a little look which is different. So to be very true to what we are doing, we are making craft style beers, which are very similar to what you get in most countries, which are craft beers, but they are acceptable to the Indian taste. And that's one of the reasons why we have taken a little longer than expected to come out in the craft beer. We were looking at what is a trend here and what is a fad. And the wheat beer space for us seems to be something which was a trend, because from all craft beers, almost 70-80% of what is sold is actually wheat beer, whether they call it that or not. Second, that trend seems to be growing in number every year, so it looked like the trend was here to stay. And that's what we identified as our first presence in this craft style beers introduction. And when making it, we looked at the Indian palate and we looked at all the beers that were available. And we said, there are some good beers and there are some not so great beers. And many of them don't really appeal to the Indian palate. They have copied a style from Germany or Belgium and they've come in. What can we do a little different? And therefore we made a very sessionable beer out of this craft beer that we have launched. So when you taste it, hopefully you will be able to share my view on that. This is just what wheat beers are all about. So we have stayed very true to the principle of how wheat beers are made. Therefore, it will look a little cloudy. It will taste aromatic. You will get flavors of different things like orange peel and lime and things like that. And we've launched it under our brand Kingfisher Ultra. Now, in an industry when a host of brands launch and a consumer is seeking some differentiation of what craft beer he should try, he's also going to the market, he knows of one or two names, but then there are another 20, 30, and he's little lost for choice. And we felt that adding the Kingfisher Ultra brand name to our craft introduction allows the consumer at least one safe choice, because we believe a lot of consumers do have faith in our beers. They trust the quality and the consistency that we bring, and therefore will be okay to try one of our beers. It gives us a little edge in the market as far as awareness and trials are concerned. And therefore our Kingfisher Ultra Witbier. We've kept it quite similar in packaging to what Ultra is. We already had a very unique, sleek look bottle with embossing and a label design which is very different from what the industry was accustomed to. So we've gone very similar. The reason we've gone with an amber bottle, and you will see this across craft beers which have launched in India or are available in different parts of the world, they're typically an amber bottle. Now, unlike regular beers, a craft beer have a lot of ingredients, a lot of flavors, a lot of extracts that go into the beers, and they are a lot more sensitive to light. So therefore, most people have preferred to be in the amber space, so that's the reason why we've also chosen an amber bottle. This is the pricing in Goa. It's very competitive, and we expect that the local Goans will find this attractive. It's very similar to the Ultra Heineken space that is there, the super premium category. While it is small, the pricing is in that space. And we've drawn from the premiumness of Ultra and that category. We've put the big bottle at 100 rupees, the small bottle at 65. The can hasn't yet reached Goa, but it should be soon. And that's priced at 90 rupees. I'm sure we've given you a folder and there'll be more information around this. Yeah, so I was telling you what Ultra, Witbier, Heineken pricing is, so just to give you a comparison of where we are. Nationally, the first two markets we have launched is Karnataka. Our brewery which makes this beer is based in Mysore in Karnataka, so Karnataka was the obvious choice. And with the first batch, we have also introduced this in Goa. It's coming to Goa 3-4 days later for the amount of time it takes from Mysore to here. That's where we are. So in December, we'll be in Karnataka and Goa. And in the new year, from Jan-Feb onwards, we will get into some of the other markets in the north and the west. Primarily Haryana, Delhi, Bombay, Pune regions. But Goa, we should be available across the market, hopefully within 30 to 40 days. And we hope that the Goans here will give us a good response to the beer. We've tried to stay very authentic to the making of the beer, and unlike many, programs that brand Kingfisher does, whether it's IPL or Goa Football Club and ISL and brand ambassadors, in this particular beer we have kept the narrative very close to what the beer is all about, how it is made, what the ingredients are. We did not want to, at this stage, detract the narrative away from what the beer is all about and have any large sponsorship or brand ambassadors announced at this stage. As a brand, Kingfisher does enough of it, so Witbier gets the opportunity to participate and partake in all of that. I'm sure we'll make the beer available in all the FC Goa games as well. I think the next one is on 22nd of December. And this is a good opportunity and timing for us in Goa because, like I said, people from all over the country are visiting this lovely state during this time. So they also get to sample it, and when they go back home and they find it, hopefully they'll ask for our beers. Yeah, that's just to give you a visual of what the young urban millennial consumer is all about. And that's what our communication has been all about. What makes a great beer ad? Great beer. So we're not, stating any fancy things. We don't have Shah Rukh Khan jumping out of a podium here and telling you what the beer is all about. We just want to stay very true to what the beer is all about. It's all about the taste at the end of the day. It's all about the ingredients. It's all about the love and passion our brewers use in making these beers in the brewing process. So our narrative to the consumer is entirely around that. In fact, we have a fantastic ad which is really meant for the digital world because you can't talk about beer and other forms of communication, which we'll show you just post that. And that also narrates a very similar story on what makes a great beer ad. Well, great beer.